Are we on? Can you hear me? Sorry, Hab? Spanmekap? ¿Cómo estás? No, you got that one, huh? Okay, we'll stick to English. Okay, well, thank you so much for that wonderful applause, even though I know it was staged for the cameras, so you don't know me, but I wasn't nervous until about this second. So I always start with a joke because it'll calm me down. So there's a lovely, wonderful elderly lady zipping down the expressway, and as she passes by law enforcement, he looks at his radar gun, has to light her up, and pulls her over, and she stops and rolls down the window, and as polite as can be, she says, "Officer, may I help you?" He says, "Ma'am, do you know how fast you were going?" She goes, "Oh no, I was well within the speed limit. I mean, the sign is right there." He says, "Ma'am, that says Route 83. And he looks inside the car, and it looks like there's a gentleman over there. He goes, "Is that your husband?" And she's like, "Yes." And he's like shaking like this. He goes, "What's wrong with him?" She goes, "I don't know. He's been that way since we got off the 123. That's from my comedic public speaker back there. I want to take you back to 1989, the winter thereof. And I was just a few years out of the service. I'd spent 3 years in corporate America and hated it. I'm not saying there's nothing wrong with corporate America. I just didn't want to live in a cubicle for the next 20 years of my life. And at the time so people told me I was very blessed because the company that chose me, I guess you should say, right? Because I had a resume, and I wasn't very old. I mean, I went into the service when I was 17. So, you know, I'm close to the doc over there. She talked about, "Doc, where'd you get your doctorate from?" Yeah.
Where did I get my
Doctorate from?
dentist?
See, so I'm right behind her. My PhD is from Maine East High School. That means public high school diploma. That's as far as I got. But it sounds better when you say PhD, right? Some of you have heard that before. But I use it as often as I can get away with it. So I had some of the best leadership training in the world. Saw some tragedy, obviously, and appreciate the time in. But after the corporate America thing, I did the brilliant thing and said, well, okay, I got to earn a living while I go back to school, right? Go back. In Illinois, where I'm from originally, they have a policy. They give you, as a veteran, they give you 10 years to get a 4-year degree. And at the pace I was going, I was going to ask for an extension. Okay, so I'm here to share with you, book smart kind of guy, that's not me. I grew up in a blue-collar family with, like some of you probably, a bad marriage in the family, and it split up, and I found myself at the age of 16 showering over a drainage hole of somebody else's family's basement as my living arrangement for the next year. Somebody took me in. And then the Marine Corps became my family, and then corporate America. And so while I'm bartending, right, that was my brilliant idea. I was going to bartend and then go to school, right? And if any of you remember the movie Cocktails with what is his name? Tom Cruise, right? The days get shorter, the nights get longer, and 3 years later, that's me. And I'm like, what happened? And somebody recruited me, there's the R word, to come to a meeting. And they said a former cocktail waitress, 22 years of age, is making 20 grand a month. And of course, my first question was, is she single? And then the thought in my head, well, I'm a bartender, she's a cocktail waitress, so if she can make 20 grand, I could make more. And then the first thing that happened is I went to an office, saw these crazy excited people, and thinking, I closed the door immediately. I opened the door, I saw the excitement, I closed the door. And I had to go to the place next door, and I said, can you tell me where this such and such? He said, yeah, that's the noisy bunch across the way. I'm like, you can't have an interview in an environment like that. So I sheepishly open the door up again, and I look around, and I see the one person that tried to get me to come to the meeting, and I walked in, and I sat in the back, right, because that's where you go when you don't know and you're nervous. And then, of course, I went out right away and fell on my face and made no money until I went to see my first public speaker. So I want to applaud all of you, encourage you all, and give yourself a hand. Because you have the power of the words to shape and mold other people's direction, if you will. Now, it's their choice, but you can influence that decision by the craft that you have chosen. Now, the first book that was introduced to me a long time ago, it looks like the number one book, but I call this the Bible of Business. And this is Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. Old time classic. Some of you shaking your head, you read it. Maybe, 20 years ago? Somewhere getting dust on the shelf, right? And what I heard today, by the way, I had to go back and change because there was so much talent that came across the stage and people flew across the pond, right? And then the dog got up and tell her a wonderful story, so I had to go put my Armani on because I'm a competitive person. I had my comfy shoes already, I had my jeans, and I was going to coast through the day, and I thought, nope, can't do that. So I put my pretty clothes on for you guys and said, okay, here we go. Now, to share with you, I don't have an end of the presentation offer for you. I just want to share some stories with you. If it resonates with you and if I can inspire somebody, God bless you. And if I don't, well, then I don't really care. So there you go. Now, I have the permission of Tanya saying 25% you're not going to like me, so I'm just going to separate that out right now and get over it. Get away with it. Now, what we've been talking about up until this point today is up to chapter 5. You all have been talking about chapter 5, but you skipped chapters 1 through 4. So if it's okay with you, I'd like to come back and do a refresher course of why people become successful versus why people don't. Right? Isn't that what we're here for? Yes. Now, look, I know some of you millionaires, and you're doing incredibly well, and God bless you. But, when you leave this time in life, you don't get judged by the money that you got in your bank account, more what you did with it. Can we agree on that? Yes. Right? Living in Thailand for the last 10 years completely changed who I am, how I think, and what I want to do. So in the book here, anybody remember the book, by the way? Yes. I had my own seminar company, but that was like back in the early 90s. So this is not my element, right? In my company, we have a structured format, right? We make the presentation, and then we have sometimes gifted people like yourself that can thunder away. But the vehicle is already attached. So this is a little outside the box for me, if you will. So I'll try not to bore you too much, and I know lunch is setting in, right? And as this part goes to sleep, this one soon follows. So does anybody remember what the real first starting chapter is, besides the introductory in Think and Grow Rich?
Why are people rich?
Well, there's a title to each chapter, right? The original chapter is introductory, and then it's the one thing you can't teach, desire. Right? It's the starting point of all wealth. And it starts where? In your head. Now, it's amazing the order in which Napoleon, by the way, if you don't know who Napoleon Hill was, right? This is a guy, remember, the book's about 100 years ago. And who paid him to write it was the first recorded billionaire in America's history. Now, here's a quick question. What was $1 billion worth 100 years ago in America? So again, here's an immigrant coming to the United States of America, sees opportunity galore, becomes the first recorded billionaire, then goes and finds an individual and said, can you write a book to find out why everybody else is not becoming successful? Isn't that amazing, right? We spend all this money and try to collaborate on how to become successful. He pays a guy to find out why people aren't becoming successful. Now he says, here's the good news, right? I'm going to introduce you to 500 of the richest, most successful people in all of America. We're talking Schwab and Edison and all the greats, right? And Ford and everybody that made America pretty much what it is today, all these people, the collaboration. He says, the bad news, I'm not going to pay you till you finish. And it's going to take you 20 years. So Napoleon set out, interviewed tens of thousands of regular folks, 500 of the richest people, and all the findings are in the book. But they're laid out for a reason, in the order in which they're in. So the first one's desire. And that's really the most important one because there's actually a lesson plan in that chapter that if more people, and I'm talking to the newer people now, you would follow the lessons, right, from the 500 most successful people of what they did, their thought process. What did they say out loud every day? How did they define their goals? What's wrapped around the vision in which, they're going to operate. They don't have a vehicle, so to speak, in the book to tell you what to do, but regardless of whatever vehicle it is, there's a formula that people put together. Now that's the first chapter. Then the next chapter is, what do you think? We're taking a quiz now, right? Everybody's like, uh-oh. What do you need to get from this life to the next? So understand the chapters are laid out the way it are. You got to have desire. Then you have to have faith. Faith in yourself, faith in what you're doing is accomplishing. That's why it's good that you all network together and come together. Then you got to have autosuggestion to trick the subconscious mind. And I'm not going to waste too much of your time talking about the book. Chapter 5 is specialized knowledge, which what a lot of your speakers here today are offering you is the specific ingredient on how to take whatever you're doing and become successful. But to be successful in itself, you first have to start, going in and out, you first have to start with you. And we got to get past the ego, right? I'd like to talk to your id today, right? Not the ego, not the fronting, not the my cup is already full and I know everything there is to know about everything. Just ask me kind of thing, right? You know what I'm talking about, cup full?
Yes.
Right? Chinese often say if the cup's full, can't pour anything more in it, there's no need to have a conversation. Tremendous talent here today. Tremendous information I heard, and you can tell the people, right? Success leaves clues. You can see the work that people do. Not that, hey, look at my number of Ferraris, but hey, look at the children that I help. Look at the institutions that I'm founding. Look at the extra work that I'm doing. These, in my humble opinion, is what makes success very worthwhile, if you will. Now, I would love to tell you I have this wonderful PowerPoint. It's all like, as you saw here today, that's not happening. I just had to run back to my room and put some more stuff in there to kind of make it look good. Now, I want to go back to 1989, right? So there's two groups of people going to the first seminar. Now, the good news is the record holder of the new company made a $63,000 first month check, right? He's tearing it up, and we're all excited, and I saw him the VHS tape, right, because that's dating ourselves, right, and I want to meet this guy, but the problem is the meeting's in Salt Lake City, Utah. I'm in Chicago, Illinois. No, I'm in the loser group, because you know how bartenders live? All of our money's about right here, right? Bank account's like $16.42, and last shift's money is in my pocket. Now, the winner group, they all flew. Right? They all got to fly first class. They were doing the ski trip, right? They were doing the whole ball of wax. And me and 11 other people, the loser group, got together, chipped in $20 for gas. We jump in a painter's van, and we're all on top of each other. And then said somebody, don't worry, we got Napoleon Hill on audio cassette. So we're listening to Napoleon Hill, driving across the country to go to the first seminar. Now, it's been over a month. I haven't made a nickel, right? Because I have no clue what I'm doing. The people in the office have no clue what they're doing. It was the blind leading the blind on steroids. But we were excited, right? Because we were going to, conquer the world. So, of course, we get there late. We missed the whole opportunity meeting Friday night, but we're good for Saturday and Sunday, and I'm still a jarhead in my head, so I get up at 4 in the morning, recon in the room, sneak in, and put my business card on the second row. And I sneak back out. Military had to count for something. Come on. So the meeting takes place, and it was just incredible. And I was, maybe you could say I was gullible. I'd never met a millionaire before. I'd never seen so many excited people in one room. I never heard so much information about success coming from a blue-collar family. Right? My dad worked same deal 34 years. We never missed a meal, but we never had a new car. Right? Multiple kids in the same bedroom, some of you can relate. That's kind of where I grew up. So Saturday comes, by the way, I had to borrow the money for the seminar. It was $300. I didn't have that, right? So I borrowed that one. I'm in hock for that. I could pay for the $20 in gas, right? That was only part of a shift. And then 8 of us chipped in another $8 for the hotel room. Of course, I got what do you call it, the short straw? Sleeping on the floor, but I didn't care. But we were excited, right? Nobody really slept anyway. So the point of the story is, 2 days of intense, oh my goodness, information. We're all, running on total adrenaline. And we took turns driving to Salt Lake City, Utah. So it's time to go back. Thank you. It's time to go back, and I volunteer to take the first shift. 30 seconds into leaving the seminar, everybody's knocked out because the adrenaline wears off. Now, it's the winter time in Salt Lake City, Utah. Anybody's ever been there? So I only get a couple miles down the road, and I'm already shaking the head kind of thing. You know, you ever been there before? You're just shaking your head trying to stay awake. So anyway, I don't want this to drag on too much longer. It's a simple story, get more important information. I pull off the expressway and park in this lot that oversees downtown Salt Lake City, Utah from afar, right? Is a aerial view, and there's a chain link fence, and then it's a big drop off, and it's just a gorgeous view, but it's wintertime. So everybody's knocked out. I put the car in park. I don't want to turn off the engine because it's wintertime, so I keep the heater going, and I nod off to get a quick cat nap. And then I wake up forgetting that I parked the car. So when I open my eyes, I think we're driving off the cliff. So with a thunderous, girlish scream, shrieking, ah, and stamping on the brake, everybody else obviously wakes up thinking we're going over the cliff, going to die. So somehow they wouldn't let me drive anywhere on the way back. Now, that was my first experience. Now, here's the point of the story. One, it was life-changing because a speaker who had documentation gave me the information. And this is not bragging, but the next week with the new information, I was able to make over $7,000. Now, if you ever give a bartender $7,000, don't expect us to show up the next shift because it ain't happening. And then that was the birth of my new career. Now, we catapult a few months later, and I'm giving my attempt to do my first speech in front of the room. And I'd since moved to Clearwater, Florida, and put up an office that we all have to fund all of our own stuff. And there's a whole bunch of people that have come to the meeting, opportunity meeting, and that 20-some cocktail waitresses they're supervising. And they said, JR, you get the first half of the meeting, then we put in a company video, and then somebody closes the second half of the meeting, right? Pretty standard operating procedures. So I have my one of only 2 suits to my name, right? Very old, got my little Marine Corps emblem, and I get up in front of the room, and I'm doing my thing, and I'm thinking, okay, here we go. Now, my problem is I'm never afraid because no one's shooting at me, so I don't really get nervous. It's kind of where I came from. So I think I'm doing this fabulous job, and I'm sure they're excited, and so, you know, I put the marker down, and I walk off, and I walk in the back, and I'm like, and, you know, they put the video in. I'm like, how is that? And that former cocktail waitress looks me right in the face with horror in her eyes and said, when that video is over, you're going to go out there and apologize to all those people because this ain't boot camp. You were screaming at those people. A lot of them got white knuckles. Half of them already run for the door. So that was my first attempt at public speaking. So I had to come back out, you know, with the whole, sorry, you know, I didn't mean it, blah, 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 and then turned it over to somebody else. So that was the beginning of my career, which was tens of thousands of whatever, meetings, opportunities, presentations, and coaching hundreds of thousands of people. But that's beside the point. Now, and then we're going to click along here real quick because pretty simple. First thing here says what? If it doesn't what? Okay, but here's the rub. Everybody's looking for the pill, right? Everybody's looking for the, hey, I just want to get on the treadmill for 30 seconds and lose 40 pounds. That's not going to happen. You're going to be an emotional wreck. People are going to say things to you that you don't agree with. And here's the rub. Maybe the intel in your head was wrong. So you're trying to make decisions on the wrong information. So even though you come up with the correct answer, it was based on the wrong information. And then change is a word that everybody hates, but there is no growth until it happens. Can we agree on that? Yes. So if it doesn't challenge you, I love the doc, so modest. You know, I got this degree in 3 years, and then I coming that, and then she's the highest of whatever it is, and she doesn't even know what it is. She's thinking it's going to cost her money. That was 7 years of her life she just carved out. There were massive sacrifices, lots of concentration, lots of focus. So she changed because she was up to the challenge. Why was she up for the challenge? Now, I'm just talking to my American brothers and sisters now that have been in a coma for most of your life. You haven't been challenged. It's all been handed to us on a silver platter. You're living in the greatest country in the world. Trust me, I know. I've been all over the place. You're in a coma. You complain about the weather. You're naive to separate yourself from a Democrat and a Republican like that really matters. You get upset about those things. I have witnessed children half dead because they didn't have a bowl of rice to eat. You get temperamental in your way of, oh, well, I don't like this, so I'm going to pout now and go back and put my head in the sand because you're not fair. Because your goal is what? To pay a bill? Wow. I'm not trying to be mean, by the way. This is me just being passionate. Trust me, you know if I get angry, right? That's bad. It's really bad. I heard that first rule, can't be mean. I'm like, uh-oh, I don't know. Does she know who I am? Change is where the growth is. Let me explain it another way. Everybody wants to go to heaven, but nobody wants to die. So there are brilliant people who say, look, for a pittance of income, I have a proven track record to show you how to become successful. To this meeting, when Tanya asked me to come speak, I only came to buy, not sell. I constantly look to network with other successful people. You never want to stop growing until it's over. And when is it over? I already did the sit on the beach with the pina colada with a bunch of money on the bank. I rode all the elephants, right? I'd seen all the movies, and after like the fourth week, I would look at my T-Lock, my beautiful fiance, and I say, what do you want to do? And of course, being Thai, she said, oh, up to you. I think I'll go back and go challenge myself again and go do some work. Okay, a lot of people are going to ask, I'm not telling you nothing. My company is called Excellent Choice Global. It's three $100 billion industries. It doesn't really need to be sold, so to speak. It's diamond-infused skincare that's 90% off, right? It's delicious chocolates, and then it's antioxidant coffee. So now I know what the guy from UK said. Okay, now I'm not Buddhist, and for the record, Buddha never thought he was a god. He never thought he was the son of God, right? He didn't. That's all man-made stuff. But he was the smartest cat that I know that I've studied. He was 600 years before Christianity started, right? So I'm only referring to him just like I would do Socrates or Freud or Anthony Robbins. Is that fair? Yes. He was a great public speaker with, limited audience. Now here's the thing that I often say to people that really want to be successful, that have a ton of talent, that I see are uptight a lot. You can read it. There is no path to happiness. What's it say? What does that mean to you? There's no place to go to be happy. There's no object you're going to get to make you happy. That's all in your head. You can be happy right here, right now. You could be happy with $10 in your bank account, or you could be happy with $10 million in your bank account. The problem is if you make money your God, you're going to be in trouble. Can we agree on that? So there is no place to go to be happy. You're already there, but do you recognize it? You say, well, JR, that person makes me so angry. Wrong answer. Thanks for playing. You decided to be angry. Their stimulant doesn't have to be how you respond. Now, why would I spend all of your wonderful, precious time on this? Because till you want to get to chapter 5 and take the gentleman from UK up on his offer, or take the wonderful doctor over there and go to their class and everything else, until you get it right in your head, I don't care how much information you absorb. Unless your brain is operating in a positive mindset, the law of attraction is not going to work in your favor. And the one thing about the laws, right? Anybody know who Deepak Chopra is? Anybody ever read the 7 Spiritual Laws of Success? Okay, you ain't going to beat the universe. You can't even beat the ocean, right? You can go in and fight the waves. That's the ocean. You want to take on the universe? Good luck, right? Because you're going to lose. So don't fight the universe. Happiness, what? Does not depend on... You all read English, right? We can go back to Thai. It solely relies on what? Here's a news flash. You're already successful. Some of you are too impatient. The doc over there was like, hey, I took 3 years to get this degree and 4 years to get this. And she was like, Speedy Gonzalez, that was 7 years. Just to get the license to go to work and make money. You understand? They don't pay you to go, unless did they change the rules? Do you get paid to go to college? No. No, you pay to go to college. Yes. So that's 7 years before they get their first check. Then they got to build a practice. But then first you got to buy the clinic, right? You got to do all those things. And I see some people, they come into an industry, I'm here. I'm going to be a millionaire tomorrow. All right, good luck with that. You will drown in your success, because typically what happens if you haven't paid the price and you get a lot of money, you implode. Happiest days of my life, saving children. This was their dream. These were Hmong Thai children. These are kids from parents who were persecuted by the Viet Cong back in the day when America pulled out of Vietnam, and the VC rounded up the Hmong and committed genocide on their race. So this is the offspring of that. So they have no home, no country, and no parents. And I asked them on a Christmas day, we raised them Christian, not that that matters, but on a Christmas day I said, what's your dream? Now, if you ever ask an American kid, like, what's your dream? You know, what do you want for Christmas or whatever? What do they say? I want a iBox, what is it, iPad? I don't know. Cell phone, you know, I'm a 10-speed kind of guy. They said, we just want to see the beach. We just want to see the water. Right? They're up in northern Thailand in the jungle. And I said, done. So I bust them down, right? Double-decker bus, spoiled them to death, put them in a Baptist community center, 4 days, playing on the beach in Jomtien, having the time of their life. Took them to an aquarium where they got to see sharks and stingrays and asked me, JR, where do those creatures live? I said, in the water you were just swimming in. Nobody went back in the water the next day. I don't understand why, but there you go. And this is my tilak there, Runglawan, a.k.a. Tick. She wanted to know what her nickname meant in English. I said, it's a bug that sucks the blood out of a dog. She said, all right, come America, I changed my name, sure. So she got to see the bill, right? It was like $8,000 for 4 days, 8,000 US, which is like 250,000 baht. Now, it's a new relationship, and she comes from a rice village with rice farmers that make $5 a day at best. And she hit the, you know, she had a fit. She's like, you gave a bunch of kids that you don't know 250,000 baht? And I said, honey, in America, we don't get to keep all of our money. Now, back in the day, I spoke Thai, Nitnoy, right? Paquito, little bit. And she hadn't gone to English school yet, so we could just barely communicate. So I'm going to say this with no political intent. I said, honey, I can either give my money that's not mine to Thailand, or I have to give it to the president. I'm not going to explain the whole Senate, Congress, pay taxes, that whole thing. She don't get it. All she knows is the king and Bush or Obama. That was it. That was the extent of our conversation. I said, I can give it to Obama, or I can or Bush, I can't remember, or I can give it to Thailand. What do you want me to do? She goes, does everybody got to give their money to the president? And I said, yeah. She goes, what does he do with all of it? I said, we don't know. So then I asked the question one more time, right? Because sometimes closing takes 3 or 4 or 5 techniques. I didn't want to sleep on the couch, and I said, can I give it to Thailand, or do I give it back to the president? She goes, you give it to Thailand. I said, okay, we can go on now. This was the first night we took over the orphanage. There was no roof over their head. They were about to be disbanded. And in a third world country, when they turn you loose, no one's coming for you, except maybe a pedophile. So why am I saying all this? This is my why. You got to get your own. And if your why is to pay the bills, that's a weak why. The doc is driven by the tragedy that happened. This gentleman over here was driven by the tragedy that was happened. You got to find something burning down in your soul that'll get past the simple little ridicule of the small world, the tiny world that wants to hold you down. The big world is waiting to applaud you, speakers. That's your gift, is to motivate the world, not 3 people. Yes? You confuse it. You listen to some knucklehead that has a negative net worth and they tell you you're wrong. They tell you you're bad. They tell you it's not possible. Why are you listening? I promise you, if a bartender with all kinds of bad habits back in the day, right? Got a drinking problem, a substance problem, a relationship problem. Just see my picture in the dictionary under problem. I owned it. Now, you've seen this before, I'm sure. Drowning people cannot save other drowning people. Just a show of hands, I like what he said. This means you're paying attention. How many people have heard that before? Drowning people, okay. Here's my question to you. What is step 1?
Save yourself. Save yourself.
Get out of the water. I see all the razzmatazz and you're learning new strokes and trying to do this and read that. Just get out of the water. Oh my goodness. The self-punishment is ridiculous. Asking for help is not, and I repeat, not a sign of weakness. It is a sign of intelligence. How many people have either ever bought a home or know somebody that did? Did you have guilt when you went into the bank to get a mortgage?
No.
It wasn't your home you were getting the bank a home, and they were letting you stay in it until you paid it off. Yes?
How true.
So asking for help in business is a sign of intelligence, not a sign of weakness. People get confused. Now, if you're paying 19% interest on a Big Mac that you ate 6 months ago, that's a problem. Okay? But these people are saying, for a little bit of money, I will show you how to become successful more than you are today. See, that is business investment. That's a smart thing. That's good debt. Personal debt is bad. And then quickly, because remember, this is all in the beginning of starting to think and act and understand which emotion is ruling you. The 7 positive emotions are desire, faith, sex, enthusiasm, romance, and hope. The ones that get you is fear, jealousy, hatred, greed, superstition, and anger. Which one rules the day? See, this conversation should be you to you. I should be the silent messenger whispering in your ear. Because the truth, well, what? Step 2. Remember now, that's controlled by your thought process and your thought process. Thank you. Your thought process over. What's step 2? What does that mean?
Do what you need to do. Take steps, take action.
Get solid. Some of you, now this is to the new people, you have delusions of grandeur, but you don't want to hear the truth. It might take you 3, 5, 7 years to get where you need to be. I'll let you just sit on that when we go through some of this other stuff. What is the word impossible?
I am possible.
Oh, very good.
Only means that you haven't found the solution yet. Just like Zig Ziglar, just change your vocabulary in your head. Right? He doesn't call it an alarm clock. What does Ziggy call it? An opportunity clock. You all know who Ziggy is, by the way?
Yes.
God bless his soul. This is called subliminal programming. This was the Christmas day when I asked them what their dream was. Now, I had never been the kind of the uncle, if you will, to so many kids, and it was coming Christmas time, and I started panicking because the kids were between the ages of 3 and 15. And I didn't know how to Christmas shop among Thai children. And I thought, and I went to Rungluan here, and I said, what do we get them? And of course, she wasn't any help, right? Like, get him an elephant. What do we do with an elephant? So I got him cookies and gave him money. And there was no fussing and no trade back. So it was good. So kids are universal around the world. Every morning we are what? Help me out now. Born again. Speakers, you have the opportunity to motivate and change the world. Some of you need a vehicle to attach your talent to. Some of you are struggling just to speak, to speak, to speak. Find something that you can attach your talent to that can help you generate revenue. By the way, that's another way of saying what Buddha's real name is. Now, here's the last couple things here, and I'm about out of time, and you guys haven't thrown anything at me, so I appreciate, you being as kind as you've been. What's the first thing say? But you're in denial because you don't want to be in pain. You don't want to be uncomfortable. You don't want to sacrifice. Now, if I'm not talking to you, just let it go. But if it's like Cinderella and you can put the shoe on, right? Just got to own that. What's the second thing say?
Suffering is optional.
So some of you have jumped into the pain and now harboring it, hanging on to it for dear life. You need a plan, a specific plan. And procrastination is not your friend. If we were to change this to say, if you put your finger in the fire, you will feel pain, we would all agree with that, right? And if it said, and if you hold your hand in the fire, then it's called suffering. Can we picture that? Some of you have jumped into the entire bonfire and then complaining that it's too hot. Step out of the fire. Understand, if you want to lose weight, there has to be some exercise involved. When you exercise, there is sweat, typically with uncomfortableness. Yes? Now that's, again, a subject that's kind of taboo and people get all uncomfortable. But that just shows you, with no sacrifice is no victory. That's just one small element. I could go all the way down. If you're a public speaker, right? Want to be a public speaker, you should be constantly reading every day something from someone else. Constantly feeding your mind, making sure that your cup is never full. You get to that point where you feel you're full, reach out to somebody else, and you're one idea away, one thought process away of going into a completely new direction. These are 3 simple rules that I teach everybody in my company, but it's universal across the things. These were introduced to me in 1989, that winter. Pay attention to your own trade, right? The more you pay attention, the more specific, the more detailed information you get, the more success you can have. Where are we at? Fantastic. No, I was talking about time. Thank you. Now, the thing says get excited, but it's not get excited like a little guy or a gal and you just jump up and down and 5 seconds later then you're cussing at somebody because they didn't get your Big Mac out the second window fast enough. You want to be excited about life and people wherever you go, right? If you go into a restaurant, look for people's names, right? What's the sweetest word in the English language to you? Your name. And I get it wrong more than I get it right. But it says, get excited in what? Look, speakers, that's your job, is to bring joy and wisdom and happiness to as many people as humanly possible. And remember, the mind cannot occupy a happy thought or a negative thought simultaneously. And if given the choice, it picks the negative one. That's the easy thing to do. By the way, that was from Einstein. That's not from me. And then what's this one? Now look, don't quit means you can temporarily take a pause. You might have to get another job. You might have to do something else, but don't give up on your dream. It just means don't keep constantly doing things that put you in harm's way that you don't feel comfortable with or you're having some misery. Find a way to win long term. So when it's all said and done with, when whoever you consider the guy upstairs comes and calls, you don't have any regrets in that department. It doesn't matter if you broke a world record to accomplish the dream in which you sat out on. Right? My goal has been and always been since the mid-2000s that I would do something on a worldwide basis for kids. But that was a far-fetched, like, dream beyond dreams, right? I only took care of a couple hundred kids. It wasn't a big deal. The reason why I decided to do the insanity that I'm doing now, and it's never sunshine and rainbows when you're building anything on a big scale. But why I wanted to do this is I saw firsthand that approximately every 6 seconds a kid falls over dead because they just simply don't have any food to eat. I don't have to get into education and wars and everything else. That's just what's happening on a global basis, and it's sad. And then again, just leave you on a couple high notes here. Winners are not people who never fail. It's the only way you learn, by the way, right? When you learn in victory, you don't learn in success. You just kind of put that away, put the trophy on the shelf, go celebrate, have a cup of coffee, have a champagne, I don't know, and then you march on to the next one. When you really focus is when you lost. Somebody kicked your you-know-what. That's when you get mad. That's when somebody comes into your country and messes it up, and you say, hey, I got forced out of here. I'm going to go do something about that. I'm not going to let this happen again, see? That's when somebody says, hey, you took everything I had away. I'm not going to stand for that, and you become stronger the next time around. You become more focused. You become more determined. So my point to you is this. Embrace that pain. Embrace that feeling. Use it in your favor. Don't make yourself a victim. Thank you. There's a lot of lessons to be learned in losing. That's one of Jim Rohn's favorite things, if you know who, God bless his soul, Jim was. And I'll leave you with a couple thoughts. Holding on to anger is like drinking poison expecting who?
The other person.
Again, that's Buddha. He's a smart guy.
Yeah.
Here's my whole work strategy for you. Quantify what happened. Work your butt off today and plan for tomorrow. I think the doc over there was talking about spending time with Michael Gerber, who wrote the E-Myth Revisited. Credible book. Credible book. Quantification, orchestration. Innovation, quantification, and innovation, execution, and then quantification. Just business 101. But if you don't quantify anything, how do you improve anything? Right? You'll spend all your money, you waste all your time doing the things that don't produce the results. And then finally, I'll leave you with this little thought process here because I got about a minute to go. English is a foreign language to people who speak English. And I don't mean because someone's from across the pond. They don't understand. Just because you said it doesn't mean they got it. And then any language is a foreign language. Can we agree on that? Case in point, to just drive this thing home, and I'm out of time here, I asked my girl in our new home I was building for her to put in an exhaust fan in the bathroom. So she went down to the local, Ace Hardware store in Thailand, and she bought a actual regular fan and cemented it in the wall. I explained it in English and Thai. But it was her first time owning a real home. They had no electricity. These are grown people, not in a war-torn country or anything else. This is just regular people. They slept on a concrete floor, on pillows and blankets. There was no TV, there was no furniture, there was no running water, and there was no indoor plumbing. So when I built her a new home and I told her to put in an exhaust fan, all she heard was fan, and with, being prideful, she sends me the picture. How'd I do? And I said, God bless you, I love you to death. Now can you go get your friend to come over and take that out of the wall and go over to so-and-so's house and go see what I was talking about? Lastly, I know I'm kind of going a few minutes over my time, pay it forward. Speakers, some of you are going to make a ton of money. You're going to do a great job. You're going to, accomplish your dreams and do stuff. Don't forget about the people. Not the people looking for a handout, but for the people who can't take care of themselves because they're in just a bad situation. It's not their fault. They didn't have to be born where they were born or raised in the environment. You can't read that, and it was a quote from Gandhi. It just says, there you go. So thank you for helping me out there. So that's my time. God bless all of you. You guys have a great rest of the weekend. Come, cop.